Okay, so what I'm trying to say is Indian knowledge system is an integral part of knowing India. Indian wisdom that have for ages been used globally, and you really cannot build a superstructure in air if you forget your roots. So the professors who will be speaking today, you know them. They are Shovik Shur, Shoykot Majumdar, Minal Parekh, and myself. But to give you an introduction and a holistic understanding of what Indian knowledge system is, we have with us Dr. Probal Roy Choudhury. He is one of the dedicated scholars of Indian knowledge system, and his work with Durga Pujo and Durgotshav are seminal works that can be used as an example. So we would invite Professor Probal Roy Choudhury to give us an overall brief and idea about what Indian knowledge system is. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Arindamda. And thanks to my friends and colleagues, Professor Arindam Boshu and the Mass Communication Department here, the faculty and the students here for having me here today. Have you people ever thought why Indian knowledge system? The Chinese do not have a Chinese knowledge system, the Japanese do not have a Japanese knowledge system, the British do not have a British knowledge system. Why Indian knowledge system? Well, anyone? Was it because we were colonized? No. I think that is one of the formidable reasons that why we have today an Indian knowledge systems. Otherwise, this would have just been a Jnana Parampara. Okay? Just like the culinary traditions of the soil. Okay? The learning of the mathematical tables by rote. All these traditions, this would also have been going on. So I want to make some very interesting forays. I think many of you would know. In India, the first text of science, Vedanga Jyotisha, dates back to 14th century before the Common Era. That is roughly 3,500 years from our times. So in 3,500 years from our times, there was no much history of the West to say, except perhaps Greece. Okay? And now, this Vedanga Jyotisha, this tradition begins there, and the tradition continues till almost very recent times. In a century before the last, there was a mathematician from our neighboring state. His name was Chandrasekhar Samanta. So this Chandrasekhar Samanta, whenever he predicted an eclipse rightly, he was one of the very few people to predict an eclipse rightly. Whenever he predicted an eclipse rightly, he used to be put on an elephant and taken on a triumphant procession in his locality, and the king would invariably give him some land grants and other revenue assignments. This is how the society functioned. Now, you might have heard the name of Aryabhatiya. You might have heard the name of Brahmagupta, Varahamihira, Shushruta, Charaka. But have you ever thought that when Goswami Tulasidas is writing, what is he writing? Hanuman Chalisa. There is a sloka in Hanuman Chalisa. I'll use a paper. Juk sahasra yojan par bhanu, lilyo tahi madura phal janu. Have you ever thought of this shloka? The Surya, I am making a literal translation of it. The Surya sun, he is, situated Yug Sahasra. One yuga is 12,000 years. Sahasra is 1,000. Yojana is 8 miles. So Yug Sahasra Yojana. So 12,000 into 1,000 into 8 miles is about 96,000 miles. Okay? So 96,000 miles is the distance. Yug Sahasra Yojan par Bhanu Madhurafal Lilyo Tahi Madhurafal Yanu. So Hanuman takes this lap. Okay? And this is at a error of, he swallows this thinking of it as a sweet fruit. This is an error of less than 2%. Now, this may be sheer accident, but how is Goswami Tulasidas able to come to this figure, which is astoundingly close to the modern scientifically known distance between the earth and the sun? Another example, much prior to Goswami Tulasidas, there is this scholar from, I won't say south, but from Dakhan, whose name is Shayanacharya. He writes a commentary on Rig Veda. While writing a commentary on Rig Veda on a particular shloka, I am not a Sanskritist, I will not be able to quote the shlokas for you. He writes, Dede Shvate cha Sahasrena Nimishardhena Kramamana. In Bengali we say, Ag Nimisher Moddhe, I give you an ice cream, you complete it. No, fraction of a second. Ag Nimisher Moddhe shesh kore dilo. Ag Nimisher Moddhe khule fello. When I was in Kerala, they also use this Nimisha, Oru Nimisham. I come back. They say. So this is, Nimisha is a unit of time, 1/68th of a second. Half a Nimisha. So 1/36th of a second. That is the unit they are considering. And they say that, oh son, you travel at 2,202 yojanas in half a Nimisha. Again, it comes to the speed, velocity of light, astoundingly close figure. How is Shayanacharya able to deduce it at an error of plus minus 2%? This is something very unique. This is the tradition. This tradition suffers a kind of a difficulty when we are colonized by a foreign power, and the regular arrangements of Indian society and polity is disturbed, and people are unable to function. When the leaders of the society are unable to function properly, the scholars and the people are also not able to function. So traditional knowledge takes a back seat. Let me give you two more popular examples. How about the Arabic numerals? What is the story of the Arabic numerals? Are they really Arabic numerals or they are of Indian origin? Your numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What do you think? You have been taught in school that they are Arabic numerals, right? Are you aware of the fact that there was a caliph in Baghdad? His name was the famous Harun al-Rashid. No. Okay, very difficult because these are all. So Harun al-Rashid established an academia in Baghdad. It was called the House of Wisdom, where a scholar called Al-Khwarizmi worked. And this Al-Khwarizmi compiled various Indian texts. He wrote on the Indian decimal numeral system and on algebraic algorithms elaborated by Indian mathematicians. So this was translated into Latin, and Al-Khwarizmi's work in Latin was called Algorithmi. Okay? And this is how the West learned of Indian decimal system, numerical system, okay, from Al-Khwarizmi. And since they now learned it from the Arabs, they called it Arabic numerals. Today it is called Arabic Indian numerals. But we Indians should call it Indian numerals. We don't have to be grateful to anybody. Now, how did the Arabic people learn of these numerals? The Arabian Sea was there. the Arabic merchants used to regularly come, we are talking of pre-Islamic Arabia, used to regularly come to the western coast of India, and they learned it from the traders, Indian merchants, who could keep their accounts very readily, double entry ledger bookkeeping, which before the computerization, you can go back home and ask your parents. The banks used to employ big fat ledger books, all written by hand in pen, and from there your passbooks used to be, updated. There was no computers, no printers and all that in the bank. So this is how the things were, and two Indians went to Baghdad and they built two observatories there, Jantar Mantar, in 803 CE. The Indians went about classifying all knowledge about the self as Paravidya and all knowledge about the material universe as Aparavidya. Only that knowledge that elevates you, okay, is Paravidya. All other knowledge about things material, that is not about the self, self with the capital S, is Aparavidya. Okay? And in India, there was no fight between science and religion. So Aryabhatta, before, when he was starting a book on science, he had no problem. In fact, this is the thing in all pagan religions. In fact, he had no problem in invoking the blessings of Ganesha or Saraswati. Gananam Nayakam Vande Shipralekhana Karmane Vande Vagishwarim Devim Vagartha Pratipatte. He had no problems. Okay, no qualms about it. But if you go back to the West, you see the case of Galileo or Copernicus and how they were treated with, until Charles Darwin comes up with his theory of evolution and puts on the coffin, the big bolts on the coffin of religion. Now, I will say one or two more things before I close. I'm sorry, it's not a bit of a structured, but still, I hope I am making some sense into you. So there is this story of, okay, I'll not go into the story. I'll tell you something very, very different. Have you known of, Surpanakha, the story of Surpanakha? What did Lakshmana do? Lakshmana chopped off Surpanakha's nose and Surpanakha's ears. Okay? He was angry. Okay? Nose and ears. So did Surpanakha survive? Surpanakha survived. Okay? And Surpanakha did not survive earless, noseless. Surpanakha survived with the ear and nose. Now I won't take you to say that during Valmiki's time you had plastic surgeons and all that, ICU and all that, where she was treated, and Ravana's Lanka she was, okay. We'll not go into question the poetic imaginations. But in the British times, there are records by a British medical surgeon that, the Marathas, when they used to catch the soldiers of the other side, they used to capture the soldier and they used to chop off the nose, not the whole nose, a part of the nose, so that the soldier cannot go back home and show his face. This was a common tradition. And then the soldiers would go back to Pune and Satara and other places, and then they would get the nose regrafted. So what they would do, they would take a betel leaf or something like that. The surgeon would take a measurement of the nose. They will graft the skin from the forehead, and they will graft the nose right here. This is all documented in medical journals of the 18th, 19th centuries. And these are all available records. You can have a look at them. So when the British tried to replicate it, this does not happen in their cold, temperate climate zone. And whenever after the surgery, they sneezed and the nose came out. Okay, so that was like that, like a ballistic thing, the nose came out. And then you have the smallpox inoculation. That was copied from India. Okay? The monitorial system of education, that was copied from India. When we were having great universities at Nalanda, Vikramshila, Odantapura, I'm not going to Takshashila and other, but even functioning universities at Kashi, even in Bengal at Navadvip, you do not have histories of higher learning in the West at such university scale. So basically, one last question. Do you think the Chinese people have their own worldview? Do the Chinese people understand the world? Yes or no? What do you think as Indians? Do the Japanese people understand the world? Do our neighbors, Bangladesh, people of Bangladesh understand the world? Do they have a worldview? No. You don't have to belittle them. I want a proper answer. You need not be angry with them. There is no reason for us to be angry with them. We Indians lack a worldview. Until and unless we go back and appreciate. Appreciate does not mean celebrate. Appreciate means also question. Appreciate also means criticize. We do not go and interact with our tradition, with our knowledge systems, and, look back at our roots, which sustained us for centuries. I don't think we will be able to develop the Indic worldview of things, and we will not be able to claim, as Sir C.V. Raman said, our rightful place in the Committee of Nations. That is the introduction I want to give you. You will have many more interesting things to hear from. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the fantastic introduction to the program. Now I would ask the students, whatever you have listened to, sir, if you have any question, if you want any clarification, because this is something which might sound new to you. So if you have any query, if you have any questions, sir is here, you can ask the questions.
One thing I forgot to mention was the Indian concept of, thinking of big numbers and thinking of small numbers, large numbers and small numbers. One is, the Hindus think that they live today in the Kali Yuga, and Kali Yuga is 4,32,000 years. Kali Yuga is preceded by Dwapara. Dwapara is twice Kali Yuga, 8,64,000 years. And Krita Yuga or Treta Yuga, okay? So that is 3 times Kali Yuga, and Satya Yuga and Krita Yuga, that is 4 times Kali Yuga. So 10 times Kali Yuga is 1 Chatur Yuga. 43,20,000 years. And this is 1 day in the life of Brahma, and then there are larger units, and it goes up to 4.32 billion years. Okay? Almost double the life of our earth. Okay? Aryabhatta, when measuring the sky, has gone into 100 times more the size of Milky Way. That is the galaxy in which we are situated. And another something very interesting, that all these high sciences were not merely in Sanskrit. They were available in local languages also. Down south, you have a very scenic state called Kerala, God's own country. Okay, so in Kerala, much before the Mughal rule on in coastal villages of Kerala, obscure coastal villages of Kerala, Indian mathematicians, Kerala, Malayali, in Malayalam language, they were playing with infinitesimal calculus. This was 200 years before Sir Isaac Newton would formalize calculus in the Western world. Once we hear these things, we feel a little proud. There are some books on this. Much of our knowledge is hidden in our manuscripts, and only 9% of the manuscripts have been read and commented. All the manuscripts have been catalogued, but only 9% have been read or commented. The 91% is remaining. So whatever our knowledge today is from this 9%, whether it is about statecraft, Arthashastra, or whatever. So that's it.
Now can we request Shoykot sir to give his presentation?
Good afternoon, students. So after the fantastic introduction by Prabal sir, now what I would like to do, in the simplest of languages and simplest of approaches, I will try to talk about and present about the tradition of communication. In fact, what I intend to do that communication, we are all communication students who are here present today. We have the journalism students, we have as well as the animation graphic students. So it's all about verbal communication, visual communication, or anything else. Communication is our forte and communication is our job. And in regular classes, we have been discussing that whatever communication we are having, that should be a successful communication. In fact, like the animation graphic students are here, they are doing it in a visual presentation. The journalism mass comm students, you are doing it in different forms, like either you are a journalist, hardcore journalist, you are a peer professional, you are a filmmaker, you are a photographer, whatever you are. Actually, our job is to communicate with people. And when we can communicate successfully, when we can reach our audience, that is a successful communication. Now, this tradition of communication is very old. We are working with a modern version of it. But what I want to present, what I want to say in this short presentation, that this tradition is very old. We are talking about IKS, Indian Knowledge System. Now, Indian Knowledge System is something which is very ancient. From time immemorial, this communication has started all over the world as well as in India. Like, you all might be knowing that communication at its very basics started with sounds. When people did not learn to talk, there was no specific language. There were different sounds. With the sounds they used to communicate. With sign languages they did communicate. I'm talking about the ancestors of us, the old ancestors. From there we started communicating. Then we started the communication in different ways. Over thousands and thousands of years, the communication, what we are now, the age we are now in, digital age, everybody is having a smartphone in your hand. When I am talking, when sir was talking, I found many of you are still communicating in some way or other. Your fingers are playing on your mobile phone screens, always what you do. So that is what you are still doing now, many of you. That is also a communication, right? Now this communication is the continuation of what the ancient people used to do with sounds, with different sounds made by them or made by some instruments or anything. Like the ancient people used to communicate with either their voice sound made by their voice or made by some instruments available. From there the communication started, and now we are in the age of this digital communication. So how did it go on? I will just try to present that. Cave paintings. I suppose many of you have heard about cave paintings. Now, cave paintings is something which is a fantastic way of communication. The cave paintings of India constitute invaluable records of human history, showcasing the creativity, spirituality, and cultural diversity of an ancient civilization. And this cave painting we find in different areas of India. I suppose some of you might have visited these places like Ajanta caves, the Ellora caves, the Bhimbetka caves, which are famous for cave paintings. The ancient people, you will be stunned to see the cave paintings, those who have visited, or if you have not visited, now is, as I have said, it's the age of digital communication. You can Google it and find the videos or stills. You will be surprised to see how, without any technical or technological help, how did they draw these pictures, which are actually, they wanted to communicate with different kind of communication with different kind of people. And this is especially for the visual artists, the graphics animation students. Now what you create on screen, they used to create on the stones. They used to create on the caves. The next slide shows a few examples of this. These are the kind of cave paintings they used to do. These are from the caves of India, and you can understand that what they are presenting. They're presenting a war-like situation, or an elephant, and there is a warrior. So, watching these cave paintings, they could understand that what they wanted to say. Just right now, what we are doing in the verbal communications, now we are in the, as I have said, we are in the age of WhatsApp and Facebook and other social media, and every communication has so small that even we don't take the trouble to type the whole word even, and we type the shorter version of the word. That is also a communication. This is also a kind of communication. Next we go to drama and street theatre. I am skipping forward to a few thousand years. This drama and street play format is widely used in many parts of India as a medium of communication. I suppose many of you, we have students of journalism, mass comm from different semesters. So you have come across this folk art or visual, this communication part. So you might have come across that portion that where we have talked about drama and street theatre as a medium of communication. And in a country like India, where we have many kind of hindrances like poverty, illiteracy, communication problem, then and of course expenses, drama, street theatre can be a very meaningful and useful communication method. And it has been used traditionally. We are talking about Indian knowledge system, and in this drama, street theatre tradition is a very, very old tradition. From the days when people have started communicating and with meaningful communication with the traditional culture, they have started doing this. And the modern version of this street theatre or drama is the Nukkar, which I suppose all of you are very familiar with the college fests. And in almost every college fest now, Nukkar is almost a regular event. Am I right? So what Nukkar, this is the modern version. I have used two photographs here. The older one, the black and white photograph, is an old street drama in the street of Delhi. The person you can see in the photograph is was rather a very famous theatre personality. His name is Mr. Safdar Hasmi. Safdar Hasmi was an activist, a dramatist. He was assassinated on the roads of Delhi when he was performing a drama. The reason of the assassination, I'm not going into that, but I can tell you that these street dramas and theatres are mostly based on socio-political issues. So of course, when we focus on socio-political issues and those issues which can create controversies, which can create debates, you are bound to increase your enemies. Exactly, it has happened in case of Safdar Hasmi, and he was assassinated, but he was a revolutionist in the field of street theatre and drama. And the next photograph is from one of the states of India. And of course, you can understand that this is a modern version of street theatre. And this modern version of street theatre, you guys, I know, you also present in different college fests in the form of Nukkar competitions and Nukkar shows. So this is also a very meaningful and useful communication method which was used traditionally from hundreds of years ago in India. Next we go to puppetry. And in puppet theatre, various forms known as puppets are used to illustrate the narratives, and it is derived from ancient Indian thoughts that puppets have life. Actually, this is also a traditional thought process. In ancient India, it was thought that puppets have life, and they represent people. So that gave birth to the idea of puppetry. And puppetry, I know, I suppose you know, that in many states, many forms of puppetry are very popular in different corners of India. And photographs which are shown here shows that how puppetry is used, and this is also used to communicate with people. As I have said, just like street theatre, puppetry is also a method of communication in India where illiteracy and poverty is an issue. In this kind of communication, many people can be communicated regarding different important issues with in a single place. Therefore, puppetry is widely used communication method. Then we move on to storytelling. Now, this is something which we often talk about right now. When we talk about a film, we talk about storytelling. Now, this storytelling, it's a very, very ancient tradition and traditional culture of India. From time immemorial, people used to grow up at their home listening to stories from their parents or rather their grandparents. And this was a tradition in India from very long. And this storytelling is it's an art of communication, as I have written, that it's an art of communication that paints a very clear picture of the receiver. It engages the audience to think, remember, and act. And stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Panchatantra have crossed the generation barrier. A few minutes back, when Prabal sir was talking to you, he gave the reference of Shurpanakha. Now, Shurpanakha, I suppose all of you knows the story of Ramayana and Mahabharata, and also Panchatantra. And these stories, I suppose, yes, you have read, but I suppose you have listened to the stories from your parents and grandparents also, at least many of you. Your previous generation, their previous generation, generations after generations have grown up listening to the stories of our myths, different stories, and different stories of the demons, the ghosts, and the princesses, all those stories. Now, the storytelling is one culture which is a homeborn culture and traditional homeborn culture. The refined version of this storytelling, now you are getting in the form of podcast, the audio story. Now the youngest generation, you are listening to audio stories and podcasts in different mediums. What is this audio story or podcast? This is the advanced, this is the modern version of this storytelling actually. So, this is what our culture is all about. This is what our traditional knowledge system is all about. We are standing in 2025. We are in a digital era. Future will bring some more surprises to us, some more technological advancements. You, the younger generation, are more tech savvy than our generation. You know many technologies. You will communicate in many ways, in many process. But the root is our old traditional culture, old traditional knowledge system from where we have developed over the years and will be developing in the coming years. So, that is the conclusion. Ultimate motto is successful communication, clear and concise message without any ambiguity. Technology advances. The basic remains the same. That is the ultimate message. Thank you.
Students, any questions you want to ask, Shoikat sir? Any questions? Now I'll invite Shovik sir to give his presentation.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon, my colleagues. So I'll start from where Shoikat sir has left. Sir has told about the new generation where the digital form has evolved. So from that situation or from that place, I will be starting my presentation on ICASE, that is through the lens, digital media focusing on traditional Indian knowledge. So ICASE or Indian knowledge system, the basic concept was written or told generation after generation, and it was written. It was written in the form of manuscript, paper, but standing at this time, reading books, reading papers is time consuming for you people. So our, not ancestor we'll call, but ours, those who belongs to 30, 40 years old, before our time, they have thought regarding this and they have tried to evolve this manuscript or writing or whatever it was there in ICASE in a digital form. This ICASE is not only bound to India, but even from Hollywood to American or European news channel also follow or have this ICASE system or goes or do stories, documentary or short film, reels, or everything is there. Whatever is there in ICASE has been there. They are following that. And I will not go in so details regarding ICASE, how digital media has evolved into ICASE, that I will concentrate. So, introduction to Indian knowledge system that already Pawal sir has told and Shoikat sir has given a brief of this. I'll be moving forward to role of digital media in ICASE. This ICASE act as a bridge between traditional knowledge and modern knowledge. How? Traditional knowledge was, according to ICASE, was reading the manuscript or whatever you have heard, the story of Shobhanaka. you have heard from your grandmothers, or it is there in some of the books in Panchatantra. But that was a digital, traditional media. The role of digital media in IKS is that they are converting all this, whatever is written or being said, into a digital form. And you can, students, you can get this in National Digital Library of India of IKS or related to IKS. You can get there, or even you can get in the Muktobodha Digital Library. The traditional media of reading books, staying at a particular place, traditional media, and getting into your mobiles or tab. This is the conversion from the traditional media, keeping the traditional media intact. Second of IKS that you will find is, some of you don't like to read books or the online version of books. Why should we read books? So much time waste, right? So there is also, you will find the documentary, so I was telling about the storytelling. You will find the documentary storytelling ideas and visual in audiovisual medium. How? There are programs. If you go and watch television, I think most of you watch television. Most of the time you are watching any cinema or any other things. But if you follow some history news channel, History TV India, History TV 18, sorry, then you will find there are lots of programs on our IKS, Indian Knowledge System. There is a documentary on Mystic India, is there in YouTube. Have a watch to this, how our knowledge system, Indian knowledge system was. You don't have to read books. You can give your 1 to 2 hours time and you will get the knowledge about our knowledge system. Everything, it is in this era, the knowledge system which was there in a manuscript, which was said, now it's been converted into digital medium. Next is obviously our social media. Throughout the day, 90% or 80% time, we spend our time in social media. 10% studies, 10% gossip. This 80%, if you do fruitful research on social media, you will find, be it on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere, there are lots of podcasts on our Indian knowledge system. Indian knowledge system doesn't mean that only mass communication or anything else. It is about science, it is about mathematics, it is about arts, everything, whatever was and is there in our Indian heritage. You will find this in the form of post, in form of podcast, in the social media. This traditional media is getting converted into the form of digital media. Next, there is a program, if you have the access of television in your home, and if you watch DD National, there is a program called Sikho by DD National, where they broadcast information or give information regarding Indian knowledge system. You don't have to just read. You can have in the form of audio visual also. This Indian knowledge system and the concept of Indian knowledge system is in the form of, and the second last thing I would say is AI. Everyone is doing ChatGPT. And the ChatGPT or any other website, and Indian knowledge system, when it was told or when it was written in the form of manuscript, it was totally a Sanskrit version. From then, generation after generation, it got transferred into the language. It becomes very hard to understand the perfect meaning of Sanskrit. Even Google is working on this Sanskrit Sanskrit to convert what is the real meaning of these words to easy English language, so that generation like you can understand about the knowledge system. And the last thing which I will say and end, ICAS is not our past, it is our future. Thank you. Now, Arindam sir will take over from over here.
Questions, students? Anyone wants to ask any question? So we have been talking about IKS in general, Indian knowledge system in general. So I wanted to talk about something very specific. I wanted to talk about our indigenous languages. There are approximately 7,000 indigenous languages in the world. 7,000. And each day, as we speak, even as we speak here today, one language dies. And with that one language, everything associated with that language dies. Its culture, its stories, its dreams, its fantasies, the way it was spoken, its songs, everything. These indigenous knowledge systems have often been passed down by generations verbally, and they have been preserved verbally. But what happens when a group of people who range from maybe 50 lakhs comes down to 500 to 5 houses of 15 people and then one house of 3 people with the family elder surviving, that language dies. According to ethnologue is the study of ethnic languages. India is home to 424 living indigenous languages. 424. It is perhaps one of the biggest language systems in the world. We know the 22 languages that have been recognized by the Indian Constitution: Hindi, Bengali, Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, Oriya, Assamese. But apart from that, we are not even aware that every day one small language that was spoken by 2 people died because one person died and the other person does not have anyone else to talk to in that language. I'll give you one example. From my mother's side, they come from Chittagong. Chittagong has a dialect in Bengali. The people native to Chittagong have dwindled down to to just a few thousands. With my mother, the art of speaking Chittagong is dead in my family. Because I don't speak that tongue. I understand it. Maybe someone speaks in Chittagong in front of me, maybe I'll understand, but I can't speak. I still remember my grandmom on my mother's side, she used to say a poem. Favdo masor lomba lomba dari, vuri kalada thor khayo harul lari lari. We don't even know if it's Bangla, but it's Bangla. It's a dialect of Bangla. মানে পাবদা মাছের মতো লম্বা লম্বা দাড়ি যে বুড়োর, সে বুড়ো হুকো টানছে হাঁটু নেড়ে নেড়ে। But it's so beautiful, it's such a beautiful language, and I can see it slowly dying. So what can the digital age do? It can disrupt. It can obstruct, it can rebuild. It can map, it can tag, it can spread, it can talk about it, it can show films about it, it can bring to life these languages. We can start hearing these languages, we can start decoding these languages, we can start enjoying music in these languages. So that is where the digital can play such an important role. But before I go into the world of digital, let me tell you, India is a minefield of lost languages. 220 of 780 languages that were spoken in India are already dead. They are dead. We will not find them anymore. UNESCO has classified 191 Indian languages as vulnerable and endangered. The story of near extinct indigenous language is a tragic tale of cultural erosion, where ancient tongues spoken by tribal communities across the country are rapidly fading away to the factors like globalization, dominant language assimilation, lack of education on native languages. The Jarwa language is one of the most prime examples, which is going to be extinct. The photo above is of the Jarwa tribe. The photo below is of the Todi tribe living in the Nilgiri hills. This village consists of 200 houses. After this people of 200 houses, they die, this language will also go. Their customs will go, and we will forget about them. Factors contributing to their extinction. Dominant language influence. सब हिंदी में बात करते हैं या सब अंग्रेजी में बात करते हैं. हम कोरियन खाना ज्यादा खाते हैं. हम भूल गया है कि आलू चोखा भी एक खाना होता है जो हम खा सकते हैं. Dominant culture. We are ashamed of wearing dhuti Punjabi. You are ashamed of wearing your traditional attire because jeans looks cooler. Migration and urbanization. I'll show you a small video clip later on. It's from a very common film, but I've used it because it says exactly what I want to say. Migration. Why does migration happen? Because the forests are being cut, and these indigenous people live in the forests. They live in the hills. Where do they go? Now, they become one with this urban world. उनके घर में केबल टीवी जब आ जाएगा, then they will sing to the popular Bollywood number. Their local indigenous song will not appeal to them because they are raw, coarse, from the earth. This is sophisticated, manicured. It's a product. You are going from raw to made up. Lack of documentation. There has been no proper documentation of our ethnic tribes. We are much more. You tell me, how proud would you be if you had gone for a vacation to Spain or England or Europe, anywhere, Singapore, Bali, Won't you be proud? Won't you flaunt those pictures on social media that I'm in Bali, I'm in this beach, I'm on the Swiss mountain? Just travel to your native village and be proud about it. We are proud about everything other than ourselves. And that is where Indian knowledge system has failed. In Paulo Coelho's Alchemist, this man went around the world in search of that treasure, only to learn that his flock of sheep is his gold. Again, I have to quote Paulo Coelho for this. Why? If I had said that Ganesha was told to go around the earth and he circled around Ma Durga and said, "This is my earth." But that's common. Why do I remember? Ghar ki murgi dal barabar. I have purposely collected these texts. This upper text is Shorashini's text. Shorashini is a dramatic prakrit. It was used when all the Natya Shastras were written. The rasas that we talk about in the Indian knowledge system, all the Natya Shastras were written in this script. One below that is Apabhramsa. Apabhramsa is not actually a language. It was called Rok Sanskrit because they were symbols, dominant symbols, which were examples of, please don't talk. You have no respect for yourself, at least have some respect for your country. And we're talking about Indian knowledge system. I know your brain is too preoccupied to hold this, but try and hold this. Apabhramsha. Gondi. A lot of people have heard it because it was a language that was till a few years ago spoken in Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Telangana. Gonds printed saris. अभी भी हम यूज करते हैं ना गोंद प्रिंट, वो खाली आर्ट में रह गया है, लैंग्वेज खत्म. जब तक वो साड़ी बनता रहेगा, वो दो विलेज है जो गोंद प्रिंट का साड़ी बनाते हैं मध्य प्रदेश में, एंड इट हैज बीन अडॉप्टेड बाय मध्य प्रदेश टूरिज्म. दैट इज द रीजन इट इज सर्वाइविंग. अब जो वो बना रहे हैं, इट इज नॉट नेसेसरी दैट दे आर द ओरिजिनल गोंद पीपल. Tai Aiton. Tai Aiton is Aiton actually. It's a home language that was used by the dominant kings of Assam when they ruled. Most of their Assamese literature and poetry have been written in this. It's near extinct. Mahasu Pahari, Bellari, this wall engraving, you'll find this if you go to Vapi. Vijayanagar kingdom. You'll find these engravings on the wall, but these people are not there anymore. The people who used to speak this language are not there anymore. These are just 6 of the 191 languages that will soon breathe their last breath in India itself. That is the reason we need Indian knowledge system. Why is it necessary to protect these languages? Cultural erosion. भूल रहे हैं. We are forgetting our roots. How can you build a house when your foundations are weak? Identity loss. How many of you have read Asterix? Asterix as a comic? None of you, thankfully. So Asterix was a fight by the Gaul, a small Gaul village, against the entire Roman Empire. Why? Because they wanted to save their identity. It was a battle for their identity. Please try your hand on Asterix. There are a lot of animation students. It's one of the best animated comics. Best character delineation. loss of biodiversity in knowledge. Do you know that, for example, when you read a Bangla golpo about, or a Hindi golpo about Bihar or Jharkhand, the author describes the region, isn't it? The author describes the region. उससे आपको वो जगह के बारे में एक आइडिया होता है कि यहां पर ये है, वो है, फलाना है, वो सारा, इसके साथ वो सारा चले जाएंगे, वो सारे चले जाएंगे. None of it will be there. The stories are dominant proof that there was a temple on the river. How many of you are from around Murshidabad area in this region? None. Anyway, so Siraj-ud-Dawla had built a palace in the 1 year that he ruled, and in the 4 years he was the crown prince. He had built a palace and a town around it. The palace was called Hira Jheel and the town was called Mansurganj. Both have been washed away by the Ganges. Just because Bengali is still a dominant language, we still know about it. One day if this language dies, the history of that palace and that town that he built would die. So let's break it down. How can digital save this? Digital archives and documentations. Language learning apps and tools. There is a tool called Duolingo. It's a community-driven platform which are encouraging young people of different indigenous and tribes to speak, to recite their poems, to tell their stories, so that their voice, the accent, the tone, the thrust of the language is recorded. Because हम माँ बोलना सीखते हैं because our mother teaches us to say माँ, बोलो माँ, बोलो बाबा, बोलो अब्बू, बोलो अम्मी. We learn it because someone else is speaking it in front of us and we are hearing it. That is the reason we are mouthing it. वो नहीं रहेंगे तो ये भी नहीं रहेगा. So Duolingo is something that is working big time. Online directories and translators, these are very important. These are tools that can be used where you translate these languages to the broader language, to understand them, to understand the ethnicity, the variety, the cultural diversity that they talk about. Social media and content creation is of course there. Unicode and digital fonts. See, we have now created digital fonts for Devanagari, Oichiki and Gurmukhi. But this is just the beginning. 3 of the 191. So much more that can be done through digital, where you incorporate it in the keys of a computer, so that when you want to write in Oichiki, you know which part of the country Oichiki comes from? Oichiki, anyone? It's a tribal language from Orissa. They are warring tribes. The tribe doesn't exist anymore. But still today, when the Jagannath temple, during this Utsav, before that there is a tribal road show in some of the coastal villages. That is done by the Oichiki tribe. That is now carried by the Gond people of that region. Orissa, by the way, has the biggest assimilation of tribals. 29 tribal groups. community-led platforms and government-led NGO initiative. Government-led NGO initiative is because they have the resources, they can go to the village, they can record the voice, they can use it in ham radio, they can use it in community radios, they can spread the word, they can work with Prasar Bharati and other government organizations in order to give them radio shows, television programs on a short wave, so that localized people can enjoy their program. Here I would like to play this clip. Sound আছে এটাতে টিভিতে? Your turn here, no? इससे साफ कुछ हो रहा है जंगल के उस पार जो हमें दिखाई नहीं दे रहा। He's saying that if efforts are not on to save this tribe, very soon they would be put into the museum, and maybe this Gangaram will face taxidermy, where his internals would be brought out, and he will be filled with sawdust, and his eyes would be replaced with marbles, and he would be kept in the museum room and say ki ye hai Jhundao ka Gangaram. It's a physical example of the languages that are dying every day. When we see this, even after we see this, if something doesn't move inside us, that the society needs to go back to its roots, to understand the Indian knowledge system, to understand our languages, our ethnicity, something we should be proud of. Losing a language is a major setback for everyone, because along with the language, you will also lose the poems, the stories, the songs, and those things are of immense importance to us. So that is all I wanted to say. I hope you all enjoyed it. And by the way, I didn't say one thing. This slide that you see, this art form, it's from the Kora region of Rajasthan. It's an art form that is extinct already. I managed to get a few of them from a friend of mine, so I've used it here. So things are becoming extinct very fast, and Indian knowledge system is one of the systems through which you can revive and bring to life. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Arindam, for the nice presentation. And students, do you have any question for Arindam, sir? Yes.
লোকসঙ্গীতকে কোথাও মানে বাঁচিয়ে রাখার জন্য ইউজ করা হচ্ছে, তো সেটা হচ্ছে ব্যাপারটা। কিন্তু ওখানে যে ধরনের মিউজিক ইউজ হচ্ছে, তো সেটা তো কোথাও গিয়ে ওদের কালচারকে নষ্টই করছে, মানে বা
একদমই তাই, একদমই তাই। যদি তুমি ধরো টাপাটুনি গানটা এত ফেমাস হয়েছে, তুমি যদি এটার অরিজিনাল ফর্মটা শোনো, উড়িয়া গানটা, তাহলে দেখবে এটাকে অনেক মডার্নাইজ করা হয়েছে। তাও আমি বলবো যে অ্যাটলিস্ট কিছু তো হলো। তাপাতুনি বলে যে একটা গান ছিল, এটা তো লোক জানলো। এইবারে যখন এই প্রচেষ্টাটা চলছে, তার সাথে সাথে এই প্রচেষ্টাটাও চলা উচিত যে এই গানটাকে নিয়ে যখন আমি সিনেমাতে ইউজ করলাম, সেরকম এই গানটার অরিজিনাল ফর্মটাকেও আমি সেভ করার জন্য কোন রকম পদক্ষেপ নিচ্ছি কিনা, তাহলেই এই পদক্ষেপটা ঠিক। আমি বলছি এই এক সপ্তাহ হয়নি, সহজ পরব শেষ হলো। সহজ পরবটা আমি যাই, কারণ এটা রুটস মিউজিক ফেস্টিভ্যাল, মানে আমাদের রুটস যে মিউজিক, সেই মিউজিকটা নিয়ে এরা কথা বলে রেগুলার। তো সেখানে বাউলিয়া আখড়া হলো একটা। বাউলিয়া আখড়া হচ্ছে যেখানে 4-5 বাউল একসাথে গান গাইছে। তুমি ভাবতে পারবে না, 2 হিন্দু বাউল আছে, 2 মুসলমান বাউল আছে, একই স্টেজে আল্লাহ এবং হরি দুজনের নাম হচ্ছে এবং সমান ভক্তির সাথে। এটা রুটসেই সম্ভব। মানুষ ভেদাভেদ করে, রুটস করে না। 4 বাউল একসাথে গান গাইছে, and all of them, that is what roots is all about.
গুড আফটারনুন স্যার। স্যার, কিছু মাস আগে একটা ভিডিও খুব ভাইরাল হয়েছিল নিউজিল্যান্ড পার্লামেন্টে, যে দ্য ইয়াংগেস্ট এমপি, শি ওয়াজ ডুইং হার
War dance.
War dance.
Maori war dance.
Yes, sir, Maori war dance, and that got a lot of trolling. মানে trolling as a sense meme বেরোচ্ছে. The language is not understood properly. Sir, so if she is trying to bring up her indigenous language, আর সেটাকে এরকম ভাবে depict করা হচ্ছে, সেটা
না, এটাতে অনেক পজিটিভ ট্রোলিংও হয়েছে, অনেক পজিটিভ রিয়াকশনসও হয়েছে, অনেক নেগেটিভ। দেখো, কিছু জিনিস ট্রোলিং হবেই, বিকজ সোশ্যাল মিডিয়া ইজ আ guerrilla media system. What is a guerrilla media system? Where you can strike without being known. একটা ফলস অ্যাকাউন্ট খুলে যা খুশি বলে দাও, তোমার তো কোনো অ্যাকাউন্টেবিলিটি নেই, তুমি গালি দিলে বেরিয়ে গেলে, তোমায় কেউ ধরতে পারছে না। এখন যদি সত্যি সেলো ক্রাইম হয়, তাহলে তোমার আইপি অ্যাড্রেস এই করে সেই করে অনেক ব্যাপার, আদারওয়াইজ ইট ইজ ভেরি ইজি টু ট্রোল সামওয়ান। কিন্তু যেটা ও করলো, সারা পৃথিবীর কাছে মাউরির ওই ওয়ার ডান্সটাকে সামনে নিয়ে এলো, যে আমরা উই ফর্ম 22% অফ নিউজিল্যান্ডস পপুলেশন, এবং ব্ল্যাক ক্যাপস যারা রাগবি জেতে, সেই টিমটার 97% of the players are Maoris. So you have to pass rules for our protection, and Maori language has to be accepted by the New Zealand Council as one of the official languages. So that is something which is missing in India. Pari bole ekta website ache. If you want, you can go through it, where they talk about indigenous people, where they talk about local tribes. Please go there and see how much of work can be done on the local level, because Indian knowledge system always asks you to be proud of your knowledge system. ঠিক আছে? আর কেউ?
Any more questions?
ঠিক আছে।
Yes, one more question.
আরেকবার করে বল, প্রশ্নটা মাইকে নিলে মানে আসবে না।
স্যার এখনকার দিনে যে গানগুলো রিমিক্স হয়ে বেরোচ্ছে তখনকার সময় তারা যে পার্সপেক্টিভে যে গানটা রিলিজ করেছিল বা তাদের কালচারকে আগে নিয়ে আসতে যেভাবে গানটা রিলিজ করছে, কিন্তু এখনকার সময় সেই গানগুলো রিমিক হয়ে কিন্তু রিমিক্স যখন হচ্ছে তখন কিন্তু তাদের কালচারটাকে আর তুলে ধরা হচ্ছে না, কোথাও গিয়ে তাদের কালচারটাকেও কি ছোট করা হচ্ছে বা তাদের কালচার
তাদের না, আমাদের কালচারটাকে ছোট করা হচ্ছে। কারণ যে গানগুলো রিমিক্স হচ্ছে সেটা তো আমাদের কালচারেরই। মানে তুমি যদি whether it is Nautanki in UP, ঠিক আছে, or a Jatra in Bangla, it doesn't matter, all of that is our culture, ঠিক আছে। এবং এইটাকে যখন আমরা মডার্নাইজ করার নামে যখন এটাকে হাইব্রিডাইজ করছি, that is bad. We need to put it in front of the people in its original form and format. এবার ধরো এন্টারটেইনমেন্টের জগতে এটা নাই হতে পারে, কিন্তু একদল লোককে ডেডিকেটেড ওয়েতে কাজ করে যেতে হবে যাতে করে এইটা পারফেক্টেড হয়। আচ্ছা, আমাকে কেউ বলতে পারবে ওয়ার্ল্ডের সবচেয়ে ভালো পোলোর যে বল হয় না, পোলো খেলা হয় ঘোড়ার, সেটা কোথায় তৈরি হয় জানো? পোলো বলস হাওড়াতে। It is supplied all over the world. 5টা পরিবার আছে তারা এখনো বানায়। So it is part of our Indian knowledge system. যেদিন ওরা চলে যাবে, যেদিন এরা কাজটা বন্ধ করে দেবে, সেদিন থেকে এগুলো অন্য কোথাও বানানো হবে on a larger scale basis. কিন্তু ওই ধরনের অরিজিনাল হ্যান্ডক্রাফটেড পোলো বলস, they are priceless. এখনো বেশিরভাগ পৃথিবীর মিলিটারি ক্যাম্পস গুলোতে ওই বলই যায়।
স্যার কোথাও গিয়ে আমরা বেশি মডার্ন হতে গিয়ে আমাদের ট্রেডিশনাল কালচারটাকে কোথাও গিয়ে ভুলে যাচ্ছি।
একদমই তাই। এই যে আমি তুমি আমরা সবাই জিন্স শার্ট পরে আসছি, আমি বলছি না যে কলেজে রোজ দিন তুমি ধুতি পাঞ্জাবি পরে আসো, কিন্তু আমি এটাও বলছি যে আমরা যখন চ্যাট করি বা হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ করি বা যাই করি, আমরা যে দোআঁশলা ভাষাটা ব্যবহার করি, দোআঁশলা ভাষা মানে হচ্ছে হ্যাঁ হোয়াটস ইট ম্যান, যেখানে হ্যাঁ ইউ ডেয়ার DRE, এতে না তুমি ইংরেজি শিখছো, না তুমি বাংলা বলতে পারছো, না তুমি হিন্দি বলতে পারছো, কোনো ভাষাটাই ঠিক করে শিখছো না, এবং সবকটা ভাষাকে মেরে ফেলছো, সবকটা ভাষাকে মর্গে পাঠিয়ে দেওয়ার জন্য যা যা করার সব করছো। এই জন্য আমি SMS ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজেও যখন আমি SMS-এও যখন আমি করি, আমি যদি ইংরেজিতে করি তাহলে এটা কমপ্লিট ইংলিশে লিখি, যদি বাংলায় লিখি তো কমপ্লিট বাংলায় লিখি। দুটো ভাষাকে মিশ খায় না, তেল আর জল মিশ খায় না, মেশানো উচিত না। ভাষার প্রতি যদি গর্ববোধ না থাকে তাহলে ইউ শুড বি অ্যাবসলিউটলি প্রাউড অফ। আমি তোমায় বলছি আমরা কিরকম ইউনিভার্সালাইজ করি। আজকাল বাঙালি বিয়েতে সঙ্গীত হয় হয়তো, কিন্তু ইজ সঙ্গীত আ পার্ট অফ বেঙ্গলি ট্রেডিশন? জলে কড়ি খেলা বন্ধ হয়ে গেছে, জলে কড়ি খেলা বন্ধ হয়ে গেছে বাঙালি বিয়েতে। সঙ্গীত ইজ মোর গ্ল্যামারাস, তাই সঙ্গীত হচ্ছে। আমরা আস্তে আস্তে একটা ছোট্ট ট্রেডিশনের কথা বললাম, জলে কড়ি খেলা। আমি তোমাকে বলছি আমি এবং খুব গর্বের সাথে বলছি, সৈকতের বিয়েতে জলে কড়ি খেলা হয়েছিল। আমি ছিলাম আমি ওর বরে, মানে ওর বিয়েতে তো উই আর ফ্রেন্ডস ফর ডঙ্কিজ ইয়ার্স। ও ওর বিয়েতে হয়েছিল, ওরা ওই জল থেকে কে কটা কড়ি তুলতে পারে খেলেছিল, বিকজ ইট ইজ পার্ট অফ আওয়ার ট্রেডিশন। ইটস নট, ইট মাইট সাউন্ড সিলি টুডে, বাট ইট ইজ পার্ট অফ আওয়ার ট্রেডিশন। ওটার একটা মানে আছে। এক্স্যাক্টলি। এই আস্তে আস্তে, তুমি জানো জলে কেন কড়ি খেলা হতো? হ্যাঁ, জলে বস, আগে বস। জলে কড়ি খেলা হতো তার কারণ আগে কড়ি ওয়াজ আ মিডিয়াম অফ মার্চেন্ডাইজ। বলে না কড়ি দিয়ে কিনলাম, কারেন্সি। সো কে কত কড়ি তুললো আজকে, তার মানে দ্যাট পারসন আর্নস দ্যাট অ্যামাউন্ট অফ কারেন্সি ইন দ্য ম্যারেজ। কে বেশি কড়ি তুললো। ইটস সাচ এ সুইট কাস্টম। আজকাল আগে হতো বর বউয়ের হাতে থালাটা তুলে দিচ্ছে, দিয়ে বলছে যে আমি তোমার ভরণ পোষণের দায়িত্ব নিলাম। হয় না আজকাল এগুলো, ছোট ছোট জিনিস। But it doesn't happen because much more important is to do that mehendi session. বা একটা বড় বালতির মধ্যে আজকাল লোকজনকে বসিয়ে কিরম হলুদ দেয় গায়ে, কি এটা? এক্স্যাক্টলি, খুব মজা আসে এবং ভালো জিনিস অ্যাবসলিউটলি তোমাদের জেনারেশনের কাছে, কেননা তোমরা আগেরটা জানোই না। আগে যখন মায়েরা সকালবেলা সূর্য প্রণাম করে সকালবেলা পুকুর থেকে কাঁচি হলুদ আর তেল নিয়ে এসে সেটা বেটে বরকে গায়ের মধ্যে লাগিয়ে দিত, তার মধ্যে মায়ের ছোঁয়া ছিল, তার মধ্যে মায়ের ভালোবাসা ছিল, মায়ের আশীর্বাদ ছিল। এখন যেটাতে আছে সেটাতে গান আছে, বাজনা আছে, আড়ম্বর আছে, কিন্তু আমাদের ঐতিহ্যের ছোঁয়াটা নেই। এক্স্যাক্টলি। So whatever it is, আর যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে করো, তাহলে আমরা শেষ করব। Anyone has any question? তোমরা যারা অ্যানিমেশন থেকে কোনো প্রশ্ন? Ask if you have any. ঠিক আছে?
Okay,
Okay.
before we end, Arindam sir একটা example দিলেন that polo ball manufacturing. Arindam also knows shuttlecock manufacturing ও হয়। হাওড়াতে শাটলকক ম্যানুফ্যাকচারিং হয়, যেটা অল ওভার দ্য ওয়ার্ল্ড, যেটা ইয়নেক্স এর মতন কোম্পানিও সেই শাটলকক নেয়। নর্থ 24 পরগনায় there is a village where guitars are manufactured and guitars are sent to exported to all over the world. So these are all the mixing of culture. এই mixing of culture নিয়ে অরিন্দম স্যার বলছিলেন। Actually what at the end, what at the bottom line, what we can come to a conclusion that culture is something which starts from ancient days. We can take cultural inheritance from there and we can mix it, but we should not forget the culture. Love your language, love your culture. That is the ultimate message. And Arindam, we will have to wrap up because Minal ma'am is stuck somewhere. We were waiting for our Dean Minal ma'am to come and deliver her part, but she is stuck somewhere. So we are wrapping up here. Thank you so much.